Youngster, of course. Well, he was saying as long as it doesn't conflict with his rugby schedule, he'll definitely be there.
I think he actually qualifies for Proto Brussels, not Vancouver.
Is that right? Okay, we'll have to. I'll have to have a chat with some people and figure that out exactly right. But hopefully we'll see more of him. But indeed, well done to all of our top 8 competitors here at GP Seville. But let's not waste any more time. It's time to head down to the feature match area right here, right now. Let's get underway with the quarterfinals of GP Seville. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the quarterfinals here at GP Seville. It's a great pleasure to have you on board as we navigate these uncharted waters, getting stuck in to the top 8 of our Spanish Grand Prix today. Riley Knight's in the booth with you, and it's a great pleasure to be joined by Marijn Leibert out of Belgium. How are you, Marijn?
I'm excited. I mean, two very good players. Martin Jůza, of course, you've introduced him enough. 22 GP top 8. Pierre Sommen, on the other hand, winner of Grand Prix Amsterdam back in 2011, so he's not doing very bad either.
Yeah, both of these guys are accustomed to the feeling of being in a top 8, and of course none more than Martin Jůza with 22 GP top 8s. He's going to be feeling very, very comfortable. I know, Marijn, that you got a chance to have a chat with him about his deck. So if there's anything, if there are any perhaps insight that you can share with us about the approach he's taking with his Jesco deck.
Well, we did a deck with him. He's kind of aggro mid-rangey, but he's got like Treasure Cruise. He's basically the white red deck, but with cards like Treasure Cruise to get advantage of to get more advantage in the late game. I'm really liking his deck. He's been doing very well. He's been beating a lot of white red decks actually because he's got this card advantage going. Yeah,
that's right. In a matchup like that, being able to snap off a Treasure Cruise, draw 3, or dig through time and find the cards that you need, it's certainly going to make a big difference in competing with these aggressive red-white decks, and adds another dimension in the form of Mantis Rider, a hasty flying threat that also plays pretty well in defense. The fact that it's got flying vigilance and haste means that it's a pretty flexible attacker and a blocker when you need it to be, especially in a world overrun by Goblin Rabble Masters and the like. So we'll see what kind of work Jůza can do with the cards he's sleeved up for this event. His opponent, Pierre Sommen, is on Abzan aggro, so perhaps we're going to see some aggressive 2-drops coming out the gates here. Marijn, maybe a Fleece main line or a Rakshasa Death Dealer?
Oh yeah, I love myself a Rakshasa Death Dealer and a Fleece main line on turn 2.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, we've talked about throughout this weekend the sacrifices that need to be made in terms of constructing the perfect mana base for an aggro deck that wants to go across 3 colours. But I mean, obviously, this sort of deck building has been rewarded, a top 8 for Abzan aggro, and again, I want to talk about the diversity of the decks in the top 8, because we've got 2 Abzan decks, but built in very, very different ways.
Yeah, there's a mid-range deck and there's an aggro deck. This one, Pierre Sommen aggro. He's got a lot of powerful 2-drops, as you mentioned, Fleece main line and Rakshasa Death Dealer. He also got probably Anafenza and a couple of 3-drops, whereas the mid-range deck, it probably has more like a late game plan, maybe some couple of Elspeths, maybe even CDC, well, Whip of Erebos to get like in the mid-game. But this Abzan aggro is all about the early game.
That's right, yeah. So we're going to see exactly how the game pans out between these 2 powerhouses of Magic, and a fantastic thing it's going to be. But between these Abzan decks, of course, between, say, the aggro and the mid-range, there's one linchpin holding these 2 decks together. One thing they've all got in common, and that is the Rhino, of course. Siege Rhinoceros.
Bloodbraid Rhino.
4, yes, as it's come to know. And, it's been all over Modern as well as making a huge impact in Standard. And the 4/5 Trampler has really, really been showing its strength this weekend, as you would expect.
Yeah, not a good start for Martin Jůza. He has to mulligan down to 5. He had a hand with 5 lands and a dig through time. Of course, not what you're looking for in this aggressive matchup. He did have a temple, but decided to mulligan anyway.
So players, of course, in the full knowledge of what their opponents are playing in the top 8, you do get access to the deck lists of your opponents, meaning that Martin Jůza's not going to be in for too many surprises. He's certainly going to be able to make informed choices about the opening hand he wants to start with.
Yep, he basically needs like now 2 lands, 3 lands, and 2 spells, preferably like an early removal spell, a Wild Slash, or a Lightning Strike, and he would prefer as well a threat. Let's see, he's got 4 lands. Oh, this is so bad. The 4 lands and a Valorous Stance. The Valorous Stance not even that good in this matchup, because it only hits the Rhinos, but I guess he's gonna keep now. If he goes down to 4, that's even worse, right?
He's got a scry land to try to dig into some action. Has a think about it as we are underway with the Temple of Triumph. Leaves it on top. You've got to expect it's not going to be a land. And here's some scrying going on Sommen's side of the board as well. He's got a hand that looks pretty decent.
He's got a Courser of Krufix, a Siege Rhino, and another spell which I can't see. And then he's got a couple of lands. So, well, this is not bad for Martin Jůza. At least he gets out of the gate as quick as possible. He's got himself a nice Seeker of the Way on turn 2. Let's see what Pierre Sommen can answer that with.
Well, at this stage, he's just going to play a tri-land and ship the turn. So it looks like that Seeker might be getting in for 2 damage. Yes, indeed. So here is a Temple of Epiphany. So Martin Jůza using the tools at his disposal to make sure his draw is as good as possible, but still after a very, very ferocious mulligan to 5.
Yeah, indeed. And now Pierre Sommen even finds a removal spell if he wants it. Pierre Sommen can either play the Courser of Krufix here or play the Hero's Downfall. It seems like he's going for the Courser of Krufix. He fetched, giving himself a second green source, also has double black, so he could still go for both of them, but I think he wants to have the 2/4 blocker here.
So, as Sommen's shuffling up his deck, we do have an update already from Simon Goertzen, the eagle-eyed Simon, keeping an eye on the other tables. What's going on, mate?
Yes, updates from 2 very interesting matchups, including green devotion decks. On one table, Carlos Ballesta Garcia is up against Blue-White Heroic and kept a 1-lander, but he knew that his Blue-White Heroic opponent would not be destroying his creatures. He's just now starting to deploy threats to the board, so hopefully he didn't fall too far behind. And then we have Marcio Carvalho against Emmanuel Gershenson, forced to mulligan down to 5, keeping 4 forests and an Elvish Mystic, but he drew into the lands and then into the Genesis Hydra that he needed to generate an actual advantage, so might have already compensated his mulligan down to 5.
Thanks for that update there. More news as it comes to hand as we see Siege Rhinoceros enter the battlefield on the side of Pierre Sommen. It's going to drain and brain and then smash some face.
Yeah, and Martin Jůza is just drawing lands. Now he did draw a Valorous Stance, which is obviously the perfect answer to the Siege Rhino. Does also get him for 3. So basically trading 1 for 1 with the Siege Rhino, because he also has the life swing with the Seeker of the Way for 3 damage.
So yes, very much undoing exactly what the Rhino did as it came into play. And Martin Jůza again on shaky, on perhaps a little bit of thin ice, but doing well to dig his heels in and make a game of it.
Yeah, he's trying his best, but he's not having the best draw. He kind of needs to draw a Treasure Cruise and then 3 business spells, but even then it's not looking all that good, because Pierre Sommen still has quite a lot of tricks up his sleeve.
So Rakshasa Death Dealer entering the battlefield, leaving mana up to regenerate or pump it as he sees fit. In comes the Seeker of the Way. We're going to see a block here.
I don't think we're going to see a block. It's a very, very good attack by Martin Jůza, actually. Recognizing that he's got to put up the pressure. I mean, he's got still 2 cards in hand. I don't think Pierre Sommen can risk it to block. Because if he blocks, he has to kind of pump or regenerate before damage, and then he loses his creature to a Lightning Strike or a Wild Slash, or a Stoke the Flames. Good attack by Martin.
And Martin indeed able to get through, and an extra 2 damage there on the part of Sommen. We saw a Temple of Epiphany send another card below deck, so Jůza desperately digging. That's his 3rd scry. Here's Sommen. He's got a Sandstep Citadel. Look at those lands splayed out in the big grid there.
He's
playing the European Patrick Shaper.
He's playing around Chaos Orb.
A very important consideration, absolutely, yes. He's learned from the best. The innovator, of course, known for his reliance on gridded mana. Looks like we've got an Abzan Charm coming down. Sign in Blood Mode, draw 2, lose 2. A fair price to pay. There's a Bile Blight and what looks like a Llanowar Waste. Someone's going to untap. There goes that grid. And it is Siege Rhinoceros once again. Pretty happy to draw that, Moraine.
You want basically the best card in Pierre Sommen's deck. I mean, for 4 mana, it just does such a great job. especially in this version where you will often have a couple of damage in the early game thanks to the Death Dealer and the Fleecemane Lion, and then the Siege Rhino just puts more pressure on your opponent and also deals 3 damage in the process.
Here's the Death Dealer in for 2. And we see a pump as well, so across for 4, Jůza down to 16. And ships the turn. No Siege Rhinoceros this turn.
And Martin Jůza just drawing lands off the top. He is playing them. If he draws Treasure Cruise, he might be back in the game, but it's certainly not going to be easy.
In the meantime, let's check in again. We have Simon Götzen with another update.
Yes, and that is Emanuel Gershensson with his blue-black control deck defeating Marcio Carvalho in Game 1. I saw a Perilous Vault take down the small army that Carvalho had amassed, and I think Emanuel Gershensson is feeling quite comfortable with his matchup, knowing exactly what to destroy and what to counter.
So can he play there from the Austrian? Well done indeed to him. We'll see exactly how that pans out as they hit the sideboards for game number 2. But back to our feature match here between Jůza and Sommen. We've had a Siege Rhino into the battlefield in addition to a Death Dealer getting across. Jůza down now to 9. Here is Treasure Cruise.
Yep. And now he finds himself some business, but I think it's too late.
So not such a snoozer for this Jůza cruiser.
I knew you were going to do this. You've been doing it all day. Anyway, back to the game. What did he find? He found himself a Wild Slash and a Lightning Strike. So he can get rid of the Siege Rhino, but there's still the Rakshasa Death Dealer. So Martin Jůza has to be, he could actually, yeah, I think he's thinking about killing the Rakshasa Death Dealer this turn with Wild Slash plus, he's gonna Goblin Rebel Master? I don't like this. I would have preferred to kill the Rakshasa Death Dealer. He could like Wild Slash, then Pierre Sommen would pump, and then in response he could Lightning Strike. Now he just gives Pierre Sommen the win basically, because Pierre Sommen is just gonna Hero's Downfall the Rebel Master, and then he attacks for 5, pumps twice, and then that's basically game. I think I would have killed the Rakshasa Death Dealer.
Here we see Hero's Downfall. Get that Rebel out of here. And the taste of victory on the wind. In they come, and a pump on the Death Dealer, and another one, and Jůza says, yep, that'll do, mate. That's enough. Let's hit the boards for game number 2. So unfortunately their Jůza flooding out a little bit, but Sommen able to capitalize on that advantage and takes it out, the first game going the way of Abzan Aggro.
Yeah, and you can see it, Martin Jůza is already quite disappointed. He's a guy that when he loses, you can see it on his face. He's always very disappointed. He doesn't like losing. I guess no one does, but he's really one of these guys that lets it get to him, and he should be. I mean, he's in the top 8. It's only one game. I think his matchup is even fine. He should just get his things together and try to win game 2 and 3.
So, considering his options post-board, I can see some Glare of Heresies in there. I can see Elspeth and a Citadel Siege as well, an Outpost Siege, I should say. There's Brimaz, King of Ereskos, and a couple of Disdainful Strokes. You wouldn't think the Disdainful Strokes are particularly useful in a deck stacked with 2 drops.
Well, it's still a good answer to Siege Rhino, which is like one of the best cards Pierre Sommen has. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see 1 or 2 Siege Rhino. Usually these Abzan decks, they also have a couple of Planeswalkers at 4 or maybe even 6 Elspeth. So it's not like they're completely useless, but yeah, it's going to be 50-50 whether it's going to be useful or not.
So from the discussions we've had with Martin Jůza over the weekend, I know that he's anticipating, in a general sense, slower and grindier games after board, and that's why he has these cards that allow him to go bigger with things like Elspeth Sun's Champion and Anger of the Gods to adopt a more controlling posture in the match. In this matchup, Marijn, is Martin Jůza very much the controlling deck?
It completely depends on how he sideboards, really. If he sideboards out cards like Mantis Rider and Goblin Rebel Master, then he's probably going more defensively. If he goes all in on the aggressive plan, keeps in his wild slashes, keeps in all of his creatures, and he wants to go aggressive. It seems like he's going for a more, I don't know what his plan actually is. There we have it. He sideboards out the Outpost Siege. He sideboards out the Wild Slash. I can get behind that because there's not all that many targets. Also sideboarding out the Anger of the Gods is a little bit strange, but I guess there's not all that many targets because Pierre Sommen also has Courser of Krufix and a Rhino.
Well, we'll see exactly what sideboarding decisions are made in due course, but in the meantime, let's have a look at our live look-in. We can switch over right now to Carlos Ballesta Garcia. He's up against Cordero Valle on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side of your screen, I should say. These guys still in game one. We've got so Garcia on 6 life and Cordero Valle on a rather heftier life total, I've been told. Blue-white heroic there on the left-hand side of your screen. So 22 life to Cordero Valle. He looks to be in a reasonable spot as well with the huge advantage his deck has managed to generate for him. However, there's a Battle-Wise Hoplite that not only has flying, also can't be blocked. Blue-White Heroic, not a deck that we've seen a huge amount of in the feature match area, but still one that has managed to certainly prove its worth, finding its way into a top 8 there.
Yeah, and I think this game is actually going to the Blue-White Heroic player. I think the Blue-White Heroic player is actually Cordero Valle, and he was on the left, and that's what makes sense, because it wouldn't make sense that his opponent was at 22 life. He was facing a big unblockable flyer there. So I think game 1 goes to Blue-White Heroic here.
Alright, seems to be an accurate assessment. We can see in the lower right-hand corner of your screen the players shuffling up and getting ready in our main match. Let's head back there. It'll be interesting to see the postures adopted by these players after board, because both of them do have the option to perhaps reshape their decks a little bit and maybe try to take a new angle of attack. And I'm curious to see exactly the roles adopted by these two players here. Of course, both of them knowing their way around 75 cards and making very deliberate and informed choices about the way that they want to approach these matchups, Maroon.
Yep, and I don't think Martin Jůza sideboarded out any of his 3-drops. He did not bring in the Anger of the Gods, so that makes a lot of sense, because if you're bringing in Anger of the Gods, I guess you just sideboard out, I don't know, maybe Mantis Rider, maybe Rebel Master. I think on the draw, he's more inclined to bring in the Anger of the Gods and remove his Goblin Rebel Masters, because on the draw, the Rebel Masters are not that good.
One of the cards that I've heard did a lot of work for Martin Jůza this week is the main decked Abzan Advantage he had. Of course, the Edict effect against enchantments. It's an instant that forces a player to sacrifice an enchantment while also bolstering one. I know that you're pretty big on that card at the moment, Marone.
Yeah, I really like it against the red-white deck. Also against all of the Courser of Krufix decks running around. The bolster one is actually not irrelevant, so I like that one. And I'm also liking Martin Jůza's hand here. He's got 3 lands, he's got himself a Mantis Rider, a Soulfire Grandmaster, and 2 Stoke the Flames. A very good hand, to be honest.
Yeah, and if that Soulfire Grandmaster sticks around, you'd imagine that he's going to play a fair amount of impact when it comes to resolving those Stoke the Flames.
Yeah, you gain 4 life of the process, and your Soulfire Grandmaster might be able to attack after that, so it's a very big life swing. Here, I'm curious what he's thinking about. I guess that's an untapped land, and if it's an untapped land, he actually also has to think about whether he wants to play it next turn and then Soulfire Grandmaster, or whether he wants to play another one of his temples and go for the turn 3 Mantis Rider.
Is it 3? Is it two temples in hand now?
Yep.
So Martin Jůza more or less guaranteed to have a nice smooth draw to the beginning, but as we see, it was indeed Lightning Strike at the top of his deck, as he has to think about his next scry. So the price paid by these three color decks is a mana base that isn't the speediest.
No, the temples, they hurt a lot, especially if you're playing aggro decks. Like, imagine if these 2 lands would have come into play untapped. He would have been able to play Soulfire Grandmaster and Mantis Rider, that would have been a lot better in this situation. And now he might actually lose his Soulfire Grandmaster to the Thoughtseize.
As Pierre Sommen resolves the Thoughtseize, the sorcery that was reprinted in Theros, of course, a card that has been a mainstay, a staple of the top table since its reprinting, and indeed a card that has seen it in all formats, all the way back to Vintage in some instances as well. So someone making note of the cards he's up against, he's going to pick one that's going to go straight to the graveyard as well. So let's see what he selects. Your pick?
It really depends on Pierre Sommen's hand. It's hard to tell. If he's got enough removal, then he should probably take one of the burn spells. If his hand is rather slow, he would rather take the Soulfire Grandmaster. Yeah, there we go. And then he will be ready with the removal spell for the Mantis Rider. The burn on its own, it's probably not going to kill Pierre Sommen. He's still at 18, and Martin Jůza only has 11. Only 11. And he's got to be a little bit careful, but he also has Siege Rhino in his deck, so yeah, he certainly has enough options.
So there is an untapped land. That's a Flooded Strand. So at the cost of 1 life, Martin Jůza can go and search up either a plains or an island. The finest of all of the fetch lands, of course, Flooded Strand. No one's arguing about that.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into this discussion.
No, rise above it. Yeah. Rise above it, Marine. Sword of the Skies, as indeed is the Mantis Rider, as it's going to swing across for 3, of course, as we were discussing. The Vigilance, Haste, flying creature, more or less one of the defining cards of the archetype at the beginning of this Khans of Tarkir standard, and it's come back and forth because there is, of course, a huge range of creatures available at 3 mana for the Jeskai colours.
Yeah, Goblin Rebel Master just so good. Mantis Rider very good. There's also they have the option to play the new one, the Monastery Mentor. Yeah. We haven't seen it a lot, but people are trying to catch up on it. But the problem is you gotta adopt your deck if you do that. So it's very interesting to see what 3-drops they go for.
Hero's Downfall, get rid of that Mantis Rider. Just 1-for-1, good, honest magic like that.
Correctly playing it in his turn, because he doesn't want to run into a Valorous stance.
For sure. Another untapped land for Jůza. He's also got a temple if he wants to play that, but no creatures. Here's a scry. It's Martin Jůza's 3rd scry land.
And this is again not looking very good for Martin Jůza. He doesn't have a threat. Pierre Sommen still at 15. He does have 11 damage, so if he draws another Stoke the Flames, then he might be able. But this is not what he wanted to see, because now Pierre Sommen is going to gain a life, and he kind of has to kill the Courser of Krufix if he wants to stop the life gain.
Here's another update from the floor from Simon Gertzen.
I have a game result between Nicolas Merian and Alexandre Abert. The CDC whip deck was facing down Abzan midrange, and then suddenly there was a River of Erebos, but on the side of Abzan midrange, and Alexandre Abert played super tightly. I was very impressed with how he played that game to give himself the best outs, but it wasn't enough because Whip of Erebos returned Siege Rhino, and Brimas, which ultimately defeated Alexander in game 1. Meanwhile, Marcio and Emmanuel are in their 3rd and final game after Marcio punished Emmanuel's mana issues in game 2.
Thanks so much for that update there. Good to see the Abzan mid-range deck employing some tools of its own to make sure that to lock up a WN with whipping back Siege Runners. Oh, my goodness me. Talk about value, Marine.
That's how I got back to the Pro Tour, by whipping back Siege Rhinos. Yeah. That's how I won my PTQ.
So there you go. A man in the know, Marine. Yeah, knows how to get it done.
I know how good that is. It really is like Siege Rhino number 6 and 7, 4 and 5, 5 and 6 actually.
5 and 6.
Yeah. If you have both of them in your deck, it's just so great.
So Martin Jůza with the Treasure Cruise in his hand, which he can cast.
Martin Jůza here has to make the decision whether he wants to go for the late game or he wants to try and burn out Pierre Sommen. And it seems like he goes for the late game mainly because he drew that Treasure Cruise, because he can draw more cards than Pierre Sommen that way. Problem is that in the late game, Pierre Sommen's deck actually not that bad either, because he's got Rakshas's Death Dealer. He's also got Siege Rhino. Both of these cards very good in this matchup.
So there, as just heard by Marine, there is the Rakshasa Death Dealer. So the cat there threatening to become absolutely monstrous. Jůza draws. He's got a Mystic Monastery. It's now the time to cruise. He can kill the Death Dealer. No. One short. Here is Treasure Cruise. 4 mana, 4 delve, draw 3. A little bit of a harmonise there. Mystic Monastery, your turn, says Jůza. Sommen untaps, draws a card. What's he got? I can see another Death Dealer in his hand. Alright, while someone's in the tank, let's hear from Simon once again.
Maestro Carvalho might be losing to Hornet Queen against Emmanuel Gershenson with blue-black control. Ashiok, 3, 5, 7, Hornet Queen. It looks like Emmanuel might be getting there with the ultimate of Ashiok. I'll keep you updated.
Wow, this sounds absolutely fascinating. Maestro Carvalho being beaten by his own cards after Ashiok doing some work. My goodness me. And of course, Hornet Queen very, very well positioned against green-based creature decks. So more on that as it comes to hand from the German. As Jůza draws a card, he's found himself a Shivan Reef. What else is in his hand? He's got what looks like... He's got another Mantis Rider.
Mantis Rider and a lot of burn. Also Glare of Heresy, but nothing to deal with the Rakshasa's Death Dealer. And Pierre Sommen still has a lot of removal in his hand. He's got 2 Heroes Downfall, I believe.
So Jůza struggling to find the answers he needs to the questions that Pierre is asking.
Martin Jůza can actually play Mantis Rider here. Attack. Yeah, he cannot play everything. If he plays Goblin Rebel Master, he's just suiciding the 1/1 into the Rakshasa's Death Dealer. So he's probably gonna say go here. It's kind of unfortunate that Martin Jůza did not find a target for his Glare of Heresy here. The Rakshasa's Death Dealer basically, well, next to Corsair of Krufix, the only creature in Pierre Sommen's deck that doesn't die to Glare of Heresy. But it's still a card you should certainly be bringing in against Fleecemane Lion, against Siege Rhino. It's a 2-mana answer for Siege Rhino.
Yeah, can't argue with that. Very, very efficient indeed. So Sommen unable to cast the Hero's Downfall in his hand thanks to a lack of double black. But he untaps all the same. He thinks about it a little bit.
Yeah, he might fetch actually end of turn. He's at 13 now. Martin Jůza still has 7 burn and a Goblin Rebel Master.
It adds up nice and quick, but, you know, as we say, Pierre Sommen with some of the answers he needs.
Yeah, and he draws a perfect card again. He actually draws the Corsair of Krufix, which is going to gain him some life, which also makes sure that the Windswept Teeth that fetches a land doesn't lose him a life. So a very good draw there for Pierre Sommen.
Sounds like we've got a result. Here's Simon Goetzen.
Hornet Queen takes it down for Emmanuel Gershenson from Austria. Blue-black control defeats Maestro Carvalho in the 3rd and final game. That is the first semi-finalist of Grand Prix Seville.
Congratulations to Gershenson, playing as a true gentleman would. A very, very pure control deck. Well done indeed to him. Rewarded for his efforts with the blue-black menace. Of course, blue-black gaining all sorts of new toys from Fate Reforged. Here's a Hero's Downfall on that Mantis Rider, though, as preordained by Moraine Lambert. And in come the cats.
Yeah, and Pierre Sommen actually a little bit short on black mana, and also he cannot play any creature because he would lose it he would lose his Rakshasa's Death Dealer to burn spells. So he's got to play it a little bit slowly, but this also means that Martin Jůza will get value off his Goblin Rebel Master here, putting down Pierre Sommen to 12, and then one more burn spell might actually be able to kill Pierre Sommen.
Here's the Rebel Master. And here is his mate. In comes the 1/1. And Sommen down to 12. Untaps. Draws a card.
He draws another black source, but it comes into play tapped.
Temple of Silence going to give him the opportunity to scry.
This game can go either way. If Pierre Sommen draws a Siege Rhino, it's pretty much his game. If he draws like 2 or 3 blanks, then we still have a long game ahead of us.
Sommen very deliberate with the way that he's charting his way across these turns.
Pierre Sommen, he's a very good player. I've known him for quite a long time. He won a GP back in 2011 Legacy, which is a very difficult format where you really need to sequence everything correctly starting from turn 1. And you can see it, he's very concentrated. Given that it's already quite late in the tournament, that it's late today, he's been playing for 6 rounds today already. He looks very concentrated, and that's how it should be.
Absolutely. You really got to get yourself in the zone in games like this. So, a Fleecemane Lion on the top of the deck for Sommen. What are your thoughts on that, especially as a later draw?
The Fleecemane Lion is still good. I mean, that's the power of Fleecemane Lion and Rakshasa's Death Dealer. They are 2 drops that are still good on turn 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Because you can just play it and in the same turn bump it up to 4/4 indestructible. Ooh, I love how Pierre Sommen plays it this way. He just says go. Doesn't even attack with one of his Rakshasa's Death Dealer. He's playing it very carefully.
So, of course, undoing the work that the little 1/1 did last turn. And Goblin Rabblemaster more or less stonewall.
The thing is, if he attacks with the Rakshasa's Death Dealer and Martin Jůza blocks with his Rebelmaster, he basically cannot pump. So very well played by Pierre Sommen. Rightfully playing around any burn spells. But now also he's got 2 blockers for the 2/2 goblins, which is also great.
Let's catch up again with Simon Götz and another result from him.
Carlos Ballester Garcia with his Green Devotion deck splashing red ties up the score against Marcos Caldera Valle. Valle kept a 1-lander with his blue-white heroic deck. Sure, sometimes you get there, but not if your opponent curves out brutally with green-red Devotion.
There we go. So another tied-up game between the 2 Spaniards on blue-white heroic and green-red Devotion. More from that as it comes to hand. And we see now a convoked Stoke the Flames.
Yeah, indeed. He convoked, he killed the Courser of Crufix, so he would not lose his Goblin tokens, both of his Goblin tokens. But this also means that he's losing 4 damage to the face with Pierre Sommen at 13. So he will basically need to draw either Dig Through Time or another Treasure Cruise.
And those Rakshasa Death Dealers sitting there still posing quite a threat. How much worse is the second Death Dealer than the first, if at all?
It's not worse. It's basically the same. It's just another 2/2 blocker. If you get rid of one, then there's still the second. I don't think it's worse than the first. Treasure Cruise, another land. This is not good for Martin Jůza. He's playing it good, but now he's gonna lose all 3 of his 1/1 Goblin tokens to Pierre Sommen's blocks.
And of course, the Rebelmaster sending those troops in, whether they like it or not. And Martin Jůza with no way to really sort of defer that attack. Stoke the Flames often doing a good job of saving the Goblins before they know what hit them.
And Pierre Sommen still has 1 Hero's Downfall, which he's not using on the Goblin Rebelmaster, which I agree with, because the only way I could see him lose is actually a Stormbred Dragon. The Goblin Rebelmaster is not even doing all that much, because he's just blocking the tokens with the Dead Dealers.
And the Glare of Heresy obviously could target the Fleecemane line, but a swift, monstrous activation would put a spanner in that works, as we see exactly that play take place.
But if
the
he
response from Sommen, no, he's happy enough to let it go.
If he would have Monstrosity there, he would have lost it to a Lightning Strike, and then Martin Jůza, Pierre Sommen would have tapped out, and Martin Jůza could have actually attacked with the Rebelmaster as well. So again, well played by Pierre Sommen, recognizing the plans Martin Jůza had, and he lets his Fleecemane line go.
So Jůza moving to his combat step. He's going to spawn another Goblin. He's going to have to send them in. He's got no way of preventing that.
He's still got a choice about the Rebelmaster itself, but I don't think he wants to attack with the Rebel Master here, because Pierre Sommen is probably going to block with the Rakshas's Death Dealer, then he's going to regenerate, killing the Rebel Master in the process. And Martin Jůza cannot respond with the Lightning Strike, because then Pierre Sommen is going to regenerate again.
Yeah, that's right.
But if he does that, it means that the Goblin Rebel Master actually stays in play, because if you regenerate, you remove the creature from combat, and then the Rebel Master would actually stay in play. So it's still a choice to make there. Yeah, he does not go for it.
So, in come the Goblins. 1 and 2 are blocked by the Cats, and they're going to eat it. 1 coming across, Pierre Sommen back down to 12. Jůza ships the turn, Sommen untaps. Sommen has had to play very slowly and steadily in order to keep these Death Dealers around, but I think he's being rewarded for his patience.
Yeah, he's being certainly rewarded. He knows that he's still at 12 life, that Martin Jůza doesn't have all that many threats in his deck, and he's also having the one Hero's Downfall as a backup plan. And now that he found another creature, he can finally start attacking with the Death Dealers. He's not in a hurry. He knows that Martin Jůza only has 2 cards. The only danger he has is that when Martin Jůza draws a Treasure Cruise, that's going to be the only way to get back into this game.
Or indeed the Dig Through Time, the one of that I think you'll find in Jůza's deck, is that right?
1 Dig Through Time and 3 Treasure Cruises.
Little 3-1 split there of the powerful Delve cards. And here's Anafenza, the foremost.
Yeah, once again, 2 very good blockers on blocking duty for Pierre Sommen. You see Martin Jůza's deck. That's a little bit the problem with going for the late game and the early game, because cards like Seeker of the Way and Goblin Rebel Master, they actually lose a lot of power in the late game, whereas they're very good in the early game. But when you have cards like Treasure Cruise, you also want to go to the late game. So sometimes it works very well as you just draw the final 4 or 5 damage to the face with the Treasure Cruises, but sometimes the game goes long and you start drawing these useless 2/2s for 2 mana.
That's a little bit of tension there, you're right, absolutely, between the early and the late game, and an interesting counterpoint to that is the role that cards like Rakshasa Death Dealer and Fleecemane Lion play, because both of those cards equally as acceptable on turn 2, or as you say, Marine, on turn 6 or 7.
Yep.
So Seeker of the Way doesn't enjoy that same luxury as it is more or less necessary to deploy it in the early game to get maximum value out of it. So the Abzan deck scaling nicely towards the late game, and here comes Jůza with the full attack with all of the Goblins. In they come. A full attack action, if you like.
Like left mouse click, attack with all. No, right mouse
attack with all. That's it. That's right. He didn't F6 through his combat step. It always lets you attack, doesn't it?
And the Rakshasa Death Dealer now blocks on the Goblin Rebel Master. Pierre Sommen is going to regenerate. Martin Jůza can respond with the Lightning Strike, but then Pierre Sommen is just going to grow it to a 4/4. So this is not good news for Martin Jůza. I'm not 100% sure why he attacked with the Goblin Rebel Master this turn.
Anyway you slice it, Jůza's back is against the wall, but it certainly seems unfortunate for him to have to really dig his way out of this situation. Shivan Reef, Lightning Strike, Seeker of the Way. The grip for Jůza. Pierre Sommen on, is it just the single Hero's Downfall?
1 Hero's Downfall in hand.
Yeah, so a nice backup plan to have.
Because basically all of the ground creatures don't matter anymore. He's already got the ground locked up. All he needs to do is take care of Mantis Rider, and he needs to take care of Stormbright Dragon.
Yeah, I like the way that you characterized Sommen's play in the sense that the Hero's Downfall is a backup plan. Because he's playing as though he doesn't have it in his hand almost. He's playing as though he just needs to use the resources that he already has to win this game, as we see Anafenza the foremost hit the bin. And that Hero's Downfall, as you say, an insurance policy against a hasty flight.
Oh, and now a Siege Rhino off the top. Perfect moment. He can start attacking. Yeah, this is probably the game over for Martin Jůza. Quite unfortunate. That's 22nd GP. I'm sure he would have loved another GP title, but his draws weren't very good. He's kind of flooded out in both of these games.
In come the Death Dealers. Very difficult to make a convincing block here for Jůza. But with Siege Rhinoceros on the way, it's difficult to see Jůza finding a way out of it. So Jůza down to 7. And here is 4-mana Abzan colours. It is Siege Rhinoceros, the 4/5 slamming into the battlefield and taking Jůza all the way down to 4. Sommen back up to 14.
Martin could win if he draws Treasure Cruise. If he doesn't, it's basically game over.
What's he got?
Mantis Rider, no,
Mantis
that's not it.
Rider, no, of course, Mantis Rider very easily answered by the downfall in Sommen's hand. So it looks to be a matter of moments. Victory is on the wind for Pierre Sommen, living that Rhino life, getting it done with the 4/5.
I think this matchup is actually about 50-50, but the way Martin Jůza drew, he just didn't stand a chance. No matter what he tried, it was just getting answered by Pierre Sommen. Pierre Sommen played it very well. He got some advantage of the Courser of Kruphix, kept up his mana to regenerate Rakshas's Dead Dealer, so he made sure he didn't have to handle with the Goblin Rebel Master. Very well played by Pierre Sommen. And now he's gonna Hero's Downfall. He's gonna first Thoughtseize to see what Martin Jůza has. Then he's gonna Hero's Downfall, and after that he's got 3 attackers with 4 power, so he's basically got the kill.
And I think Martin Jůza realizes the writing is on the wall. That might be that for him. The Czech bowing out in the semi, or in the quarters by the look of things, while Sommen well on his way to making it all the way to the top. Here is the block, there is the pump, and there is the handshake. Martin Jůza going down to the might of Abzan aggro. Once again, those aggressive 2-drops that we talked about before the match, showing their worth as a very, very legitimate late-game threat, Moran.
Yeah, well played by Pierre Sommen. I have to. A lot of players would have been way more aggressive, opening themselves up to a couple of good draws from Martin Jůza, but his draws were not that good, and Pierre Sommen played it perfectly. Very well played.
Yes, well done indeed, recognising his role in this game, and Martin Jůza, in fairness, not enjoying the best of draws from his deck. But as we say, a little bit of tension between wanting to combat early, but also go, ride the wave late, and it wasn't quite enough in this situation. We're going to find out if we've got another match waiting in the wings for you before very much longer. We do indeed. Here is Marcos Antonio Cordero Valle on Blue-White Heroic, all tied up at 1-1 with Carlos Ballesta Garcia on Green Devotion. He's also splashing red. Just shook a little bit of sauce on that salad.
Yeah, I just love this board state. Look at that. Laguna Trailblazer facing up 6 lands. I love it.
Here's Nalea's Disciple. Little Hell Giant going to gain 2. Simon Gertzen is approaching the desk once again. What have you got for us, Mr. Gertzen?
You witnessed the victory of Pierre Sommen, but Nicolas Mérien also took care of Alexander Albert. Abzan midrange just pounding on the CDZ whip deck. After sideboarding, every CDZ was killed. There was even a back to nature for the absolute blowout. Alexander Albert really impressed me with his play. It just wasn't his match to win.
Wasn't quite enough for the Frenchman, but well done indeed, making it all the way to the top 8. And Nicolas Mérien, his first GP top 8, his first Pro Tour in the wings as well. He's come all the way to the semis. He's got to be a happy boy.
Yeah, making it to the semifinals is always something to be proud of. I mean, 800 players entered day 1, or 900?
799.
799. Yeah. So if you make it to the 4 best players of this tournament,
yeah,
you can be very proud. You can make it even further.
Yeah, I saw him as soon as he qualified for the top 8. I saw him on the phone. I can only assume he was calling Mum back at home. Mum, I've made it all the way to the top 8. You're going to be so proud of me.
It's probably more like, Mom, call Daddy. I did it.
I did it. Tell the whole family. Call Grandma.
Yeah.
Call people.
I'll be on camera.
That's it. Come and see my handsome face. There he goes. Here's an ordeal of Thassa, certainly my favourite of the ordeals.
I really liked Ordeal of Perforos in a draft.
Oh, yeah.
But in Constructed, I guess this is pretty much the only one that's playable. And interestingly enough, he does not go for the Defiant Strike here. But why did he let Marcos attack first? He got Destructive Revelry, but I'm not 100% sure why he let him attack first.
See exactly how this pans out once Garcia has finished shuffling his deck.
I'm also not 100% sure I agree with sideboarding Destructive Revelry against Blue-White Heroic, because basically when you play the enchantment, a lot of the harm has already been done.
Yeah, for sure.
Like now, it had already grown once, and even if you let it attack, it's actually grown twice already, so it's certainly not good to let your opponent attack with a creature with Ordeal on.
Indeed, if the Laguna Band Trailblazer has attacked, then that trigger will be on the stack whether Garcia likes it or not, so it should be growing, and yes indeed, there it goes. So the Destructive Revelry, as you say, not exactly doing its finest work in this point, because it's not really trading for the full card that it's destroying.
No, especially given how he played it this time around. He cannot even block, right? Because if he blocks with the Disciple, then we will just see a Defiant Strike from Marcos Cordero.
Any spell will grow it at all.
Any
Spell.
Any.
E-double-N-Y. Any.
Yeah, and Carlos in all sorts of trouble here. We actually see that Marcos is holding quite a lot of targeted spells there. He's got one more Ordeal, he's got the Stratus Walk, and he's got the Defiant Strike. So it's not going to be easy for Carlos to actually get rid of all the creatures. Now that's a good start.
Yeah,
Hornet Queen.
There we go.
That gets rid of Stratus Walked creature if you want. The only thing he should be afraid of now is an Aqueous Form.
Yeah, Aqueous Form, a rather unassuming card, one of my favourite 14th picks in Theros draft, but it is a card that does get around cards like Hornet Queen, and you have to be prepared to face down the Hornet Queen. You have to be prepared for it.
Yeah, now he basically has 2 draw steps. I'm surprised that he doesn't go for the end of turn Defiant Strike, because he needs to start digging as soon as possible.
Here's a Flooded Strand. It's going to go away straight away. Nice to see the Azorius colours represented at some level. It hasn't been a good year so far for blue-white control.
Yep, I'm getting the impression that you're a big fan of the Azorius colors.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Have you ever played something different?
I'm playing blue-black at the moment.
Oh.
I mean,
because you couldn't play blue-white control, right?
Can't play blue-white control.
Well, you can actually play blue-white control with,
I could. I'm
with
sure
Lost Bread and stuff like that.
I'm sure I'd be losing just as much as I am with blue-black control.
Yep. It's probably the only fetch land you own, right?
No.
No?
I busted packs till I got a full set of the cans ones. Still chasing down those Zendikar ones. They're a little bit rarer.
Now we're gonna see him dig for some more cards, or he's just gonna play another creature. He's gonna play another creature, but I don't know. He's gotta hurry, because Carlos has quite a lot of flying Death Touch creatures, so if he doesn't put up a big force as soon as possible, then he's just going to die to them. He really needs to find that Aqueous Form or a Pilgrim to fetch it up.
So, Cordero Valet scrying thanks to the Battlewise Hoplite trigger. That Hoplite already a 3/3 with flying, but in the face of Queen Hornet, it's not getting a whole lot of work done. Draws a card thanks to the Stratus Walk. There's another Ordeal. Ordeal of Heliod. When that one falls off, gains 10 life. Not quite as impressive as drawing 2 cards, but hey, you take it.
10 life is fine, and the advantage of the Hoplite is that you can actually attack with it, and it won't die to the Death Touch, I believe, because it prevents all the damage, if I'm not mistaken.
With Favored Hoplite, sure.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not on Battlewise Hoplite.
Oh yeah, the Battlewise Hoplite is the Scry one.
Yeah. Another Hornet Queen on top for Garcia.
How can you have 2 queens?
Different queendoms. Neighbouring. fiercely embattled, but joined in unity against the blue-white heroic menace. And then they go back to their bitter age-old rivalry. In comes the Air Force.
Surprised that he doesn't hold back one of them, because he kind of wants to block that big hoplite. It's certainly going to grow even more, and now he just gives his opponent the opportunity to resolve an ordeal of Heliot, Defiant Strike, and even more, grow it even more, and he'll still get to keep the hoplite.
Defiant Strike still sitting in the hand of Cordero Valle. But having said that, he's down to 18. Pressure's on. 2 more mana. Here is Savage Punch.
Now that explains a lot.
There we go. Let's have a read of that card.
Now he's going to fight with his 1/1 Death Touch with the 3/3 hoplite. Because of the Death Touch, 1 damage is enough to kill the hoplite.
Absolutely. In terms of the rules of Magic, that is a completely fair play. An absolutely enormous flavor violation, because I don't think a punch from a Hornet would do very much, to be honest. Spindly little leg crashing into your face. You just wipe that off. Grab a can of Mortine. But all the Mortine in the world isn't going to help Cordero Valle against the second Hornet Queen as well, as he seems to be with his back against the wall.
It seems like he leaves the card on top, and he's also got the Defiant Strike, so he can draw that card. Is it good enough to... Well, because Carlos didn't keep one of his insects at bay, he can actually attack with the Trailblazer and gain 10 life with the Ordeal of Heliod.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, the Ordeal of Heliod would grow, would put 2 counters, one thanks to the heroic and then one to the attack. So that Laguna Bay and Trailblazer would be absolutely enormous. It would be a 4/8 and gain him 10 life as well. So a little bit of breathing room, but again, Hornet Queen number 2, the second of her name, coming down to perhaps put the game out of reach.
Yeah, and the thing is, Carlos doesn't even have to block. He's at 18. He can take 5 or 6 damage and then just kill Marcos as soon as possible with the second Hornet Queen. He's going to attack for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as well. So he's basically going to negate the Ordeal of Heliod, and then next turn kill him anyway with a lot of bees.
Here's the Ordeal. Attack up to 4. Off slides the Ordeal, gain 10 life, go up to 17. Garcia, as you said, Moraine, no real reason to block.
He could block. I mean, the best thing that could happen for Marcos Cordero Valle is basically that he draws Aqua's Form and that he kills Carlos in 2 attacks, because this is 4, he's going to Defiant Strike, so that's 6. He might have a second Defiant Strike, so that's 8. So that way Carlos would go down to 10, and then Aqua's Form plus another spell would actually kill him. So I wouldn't be too surprised if he blocks, but it seems like he's not opting to.
It's Battle-wise Hoplites coming through as well. He left the card on top of his deck, which is interesting that he doesn't want to draw it immediately. Or maybe we'll see a Defiant Strike before very much longer. There's a mountain on the top of the deck for Garcia. He puts it into play thanks to the Corsair Crufix. It's going to gain him 1 more life as well, and a second land as well. Temple of Abandon, his next turn. Untaps his Air Force. Those Hornets still getting in.
Of course, the way you should do it is first untap and then play your main phase, but I'll forgive him.
Yeah, little kid magic from Carlos Ballesta Garcia.
And there he goes, attacks with everything, recognizing he needs to kill Marcus as soon as possible, because Aqua's Form could actually mean that he gets back into the game.
Yeah, for sure, locking up the game there with the unblockability of Aqua's Form, and Cordero Valle with few other options than just taking it. He's certainly not in a position to throw his hoplite under the bus, but there is a Kratos Claws to finish things out, rounding out the game, and Kratos Claws into immediate winner's handshake. That is going to seal the deal there for Carlos Ballesta Garcia, taking it out with his Green Devotion splashing red. Unfortunately for the blue-white mage left of your screen, not good enough at the end of the day, and that is that. Those are all of our results for the quarterfinals. There is your newly updated bracket for Grand Prix Seville 2015. We can see Nicolas Merian, he's made it in with Abzan mid-range. Carlos Balesta Garcia is with green splashing red Devotion. Pierre Sommen with his Abzan aggro deck and blue-black control. I'm very pleased to announce making it all the way to the semi-finals.